everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel. This is me, Nicky Sinha, and I'm here with part 2 of your syllabus discussion. In the last lecture, in part 1, I had discussed unit 1 to 5 with you all. Now I'm taking up 6 to 10. So let's start. Okay. So unit 6. Now, Unit 6 is all about the cultural aspects of the dynasties which have been discussed in Unit 4. So, we will talk about society and culture, Sufis, Bhakti movement, Sikh movement. Then we will talk about the rural society and position of women. So, here we will be talking about the cultural aspect. So, Unit 4 is all about the political aspect. Then Unit 5 is all about administration and economy. And Unit 6 is all about culture and religious aspects of the dynasties that we have discussed in Unit 4. Now, here also we have certain divisions. Like, for example, in position of women, we discussed the Zanana system, the Devdasi system. So, we have subdivisions, right? So, when we're discussing the Bhakti movement, we will discuss Shaivism and Bhakti, Shaivism and Vaishnavism, Shaktism, the saints which were there in the north and south, and the impact that they had on the socio-political environment of that particular time period. So, with each broad topic, there are certain subdivisions, and each and every subdivision will be dealt. Okay. Moving ahead. All right. Then we move on to some other cultural aspects like development of education, fine arts. So here we have some major schools of painting like Mughal, Rajasthani, Pahari, Garhwali. Then art and architecture, we'll be discussing with Indo-Islamic architecture, Mughal architecture, some regional styles which might have come up. And then Indo-Arabic architecture, Mughal gardens here are important, Maratha forts, shrines and temples. So these are other cultural aspects of the dynasties that we have discussed in Unit 4. All right. Then we move on to Unit 7. Now, Unit 7 is all about modern India. So here we are going to start from modern India. All right. So here we will be discussing from the onset of the colonial period or from the coming in of the Britishers, so from British till post independence. This is what your modern period is all about. Okay, so this is what we will talk about. So in Unit 7, again, first of all, we'll focus on the sources. Here the sources are going to change a little. We have more of archival material, newspapers, oral evidences, literature, painting, etc. Right? So these, the sources have changed a little bit, isn't it? We don't have archaeological, numismatic, but we have more of literary sources. Okay. Then we will see the rise of British power. Here, we'll be focusing on the European traders that were there. We have Dutch, we have Portuguese, and then we will see how the British emerged on top, right? And how they expanded in relations with principal Indian states like Bengal, Awadh, Hyderabad, Mysore, Karnataka, and Punjab. So the relationship with each of these states will be discussed in detail. All right. After this, we move on to the revolt of 1857 and then how the administration had moved on from the company to the crown, that is from English East India Company to the British Parliament, and what kind of administrative changes were introduced, like provincial structure, evolution of central administration, etc. We will also talk about certain administrative aspects like civil service, judiciary, police, armed forces, etc. So all this we will talk about under the British Crown, which is the British Parliament, because the administration has now shifted. Okay. After this, we will talk about local self-government and the constitutional changes which were given to us by the Britishers, right? So Indians were not ready to just agree to what the Britishers were saying, and definitely there were revolts. We have the revolt of 1857, and we do have small revolts going on. So we have certain constitutional changes which were given to us, very little changes obviously, but yes, that is what we will talk about from 1909 to 1935. Okay, Unit 8, we will be focusing on the aspects of colonial government. Okay, so we'll focus on colonial economy, that is how the volume of trade changed, the direction of trade, commercialization of agriculture, land settlement, etc., how it resulted in the decline of our industries. And in here only, we will talk about a very major concept, which is the drain of wealth, which was given by Dadabhai Naoroji. So we will talk about that as well. All right. Then we will talk about the world wars and how it affected the economy, and how the British industrial policy was launched, which resulted in the formation of some major industries, how it affected the land and labor of our country. Then we will focus on the monetary policy, the banking, currency, etc., railways, road transport, communications, which were launched by them, which were launched by the Britishers. The whole idea of this was not that it would help the Indians. The whole idea of this was that it is going to aid them in trading activities. Okay. Then we will talk about the growth of new urban centers like Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta, how it resulted in famines and epidemics, the government policy of how famines and epidemics were dealt with. I'm sure you know about the Bengal famine, right? Then we have some tribal and peasant movement. So here we will talk about the Santhals, the Deccan Rights Commission, like that. So all that will be discussed here. All right, moving ahead. Then we will focus on certain cultural aspect which developed during the colonial rule. So here the Indian society was in transition. Why? So Indian society was transitioning towards a more modern outlook, right? We have reformers like Dayanand Saraswati, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Savitribai Jyotirao Phule, who were actually fighting against caste discrimination, gender discrimination. So yes, Indian society was in a phase of transition where we were trying to transition ourselves depending upon what? Depending upon English education, English reforms, and English values. Okay. Then we have the new education system, the government policy which was there regarding the education system, how English language developed, development of science, technology, public health, medicine, etc. And then we will obviously talk about the women's position and how women raised question on gender equality and how they asked for more rights, and the organizations which were found by them, the movements which they led, and what it resulted in. Okay. Then we talk about the printing press and modernization of Indian languages and literary forms. Now, you all know that newspapers played a very important role in the national movement. So this is what we will talk about. But how the printing press was introduced and how it was initially used by the Britishers, and then our nationalist leaders, our fighters, have also used the newspapers to fight for independence. Moving ahead. Unit 9 is all about starting of nationalism, independence, constitution, and then post-independence, the challenges that we had to face and how we overcome that. So we will start with nationalism, rise of nationalism. We will focus on the birth of Indian National Congress. Then we will focus on early nationalists. We will focus on the Swadeshi and Swaraj movement. We will focus on Gandhian mass movements, non-cooperation, quit India, etc. Subhash Chandra Bose and his INA, role of middle class and women's participation. This is very important. After this, we will have the depressed class movement, the untouchables. Then we will see how communal politics had come in between, and we have the formation of Muslim League and the rift that was there between the Muslim League and Congress. Then we move on towards independence and partition, and we will then see the challenges that India had to face after independence, which is partition, integration of princely states, and formation of our constitution. Okay, that's the next topic. So, the next topic in Unit 9 is Constitution, the making of Constitution, role of B.R. Ambedkar. We will talk about how the structure of bureaucracy was decided, how the new education policy was decided, how new economic policies were decided, and most importantly, the foreign policy that India was willing to follow. So all this would be discussed in detail, like Panchsheel, dynamics of Indian politics emergency, liberalization, privatization, globalization. All this obviously happened in the post-independence phase. The challenges that we faced while doing all these things will be discussed in detail. Now, Unit 10 can be divided into three sections. First is historical method in research. Second is the methodology which is to be used while researching. And the third is historiography. Now, what is historiography? Historiography basically means the viewpoints that different historians have regarding a certain period or a certain event in history. Okay? So, scope, objectivity bias, synthesis presentation, arts or social science, causation and imagination, significance of regional history, recent trends in history, all this will come under the question of what history is and how it is understood. Then we have certain research methodology, which we will see that how you can do your research. We will focus on how to form hypothesis, how we can do research in certain areas, which areas are upcoming for research. Then we will see how data is to be collected from primary, secondary, original and transit sources. This is all about your research methodology. After this, we have historiography. So here we will be taking certain historians and the viewpoints that they have regarding history. So here we will be focusing on Indian historiography. We will be focusing on Greek historiography, Renaissance historiography, negative and positive schools of historical writing. We'll focus on Ranke. We'll focus on Marxist history. We'll focus on cynical theory of history. We will focus on challenge and response theory, which was given by Arnold Joseph Tony B. And then how history has been treated in the postmodern world. So all this is going to be discussed in detail. This is what historiography is, that how different scholars have understood what history is. All right. So I really hope that this was absolutely clear to you all. I really hope that you have understood what each and every unit stands for and what you have to do in each and every unit. I really hope that's clear. If you still have any difficulties, please feel free to address them in the comment section and we'll be more than happy to help you out with it. Till then, please take care. This is me, Nicky Sinha, signing off. Thank you.